Hello, everyone, and welcome to Immigration Talk Show. I'm your host, Nipasa, and I'm going to be with you throughout this session today. And I hope that you're excited because we have a great webinar that's lined up and with none other than an amazing attorney who regularly joins us. Yes, I think I'm very, very excited for today's webinar. Also, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. And you can also check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram. And before we head on with today's discussion, I have this very important disclaimer. And that is by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not professional advice. Use is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. So, thank you so much, friends, and I hope that you keep this disclaimer in your mind throughout this session. And please feel free to join us because you can also do so. You can call in to ask your questions. You can comment wherever you're watching to ask your questions so that we can have our attorney for today answer your questions live right here. And to call, you have to dial this number 425-436-6335, and the access code when they ask for it is 988888. So, all these notes, friends, thank you so much for joining us here. And without further ado, please help me welcome our guest for today, none other than attorney Chand Parvathaneni from Dallas, Texas, SPB Law Firm. Hi, Chand. Always great to have you. How are you doing today?
Thank you
Sorry,
for
you're on
setting up
mute.
this session.
Okay, it's okay. I think we can hear you now.
Yeah, thank you, Nipasa. Yeah, thank you for this session today. And I think today is a good time to kind of see the need for filing an H-1B amendment. A lot of times I see people, either the companies forget to file an amendment, sometimes they do it on purpose, sometimes they do it by accident. And a lot of times when there's a site visit, we find that USCIS, they start revoking the H-1B petitions. Or sometimes people go to get a visa stamping at the consulate. They get stuck because the consulate found out that the amendment has not been filed timely. Amendment it's not a very complex process. It is just as any other H-1B filing, but it has to be done. And if there is any material change, and if the employer does not notify USCIS, it jeopardizes the employee's immigration status. It could also cause major issues with the company, with the petitioner. They could run into issues with Department of Labor. They could run into issues with USCIS, sometimes maybe even with Department of Justice. So to avoid issues, amendments are very, very important to the whole H-1B process. And a lot of companies, what they do is they provide IT services. And what that means is they're on a project. They're on a project for a certain client. The project terminates, they put them on another project. So the projects keep on changing for a lot of employees. So a lot of employees who are not having a full-time job where they have to keep working at different client locations, things keep changing because the companies keep getting new projects, keep getting people get reassigned to different projects, and so on. So in this big picture, where people potentially could get reassigned to a different project from what was initially filed at the time of the H-1B filing, you want to make sure that USCIS also is updated with any material changes. So today in this discussion, I think what we will say is what exactly is a material change, when exactly is the company mandated, required to file an amendment, what happens if the amendment is not filed, how it would impact the company, how it would impact the employee. So overall, I think it will be a helpful session where we tell people like the reason why amendment has to be filed, and it is very crucial. If people forget to file an amendment, I've seen a number of cases where their H-1B got revoked for failure to file amendment on a timely basis. And if there is a site visit, these things will be scrutinized. When you file for an extension, because you do have to file for an extension at the end of 3 years, at the time of filing for extensions, these things are being scrutinized. So it's an easy process, and most of the time I see people just like forgetting about it or not knowing about it. So hopefully, I think we give some information on what it takes to file an H-1B amendment.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for today's session, Chand, and thank you for, those highlighting those points that we're going to discuss today. And I hope that friends out there are also very excited because I already see, Ricky has joined us. So hi, Ricky. And Ricky is already saying thanks for conducting this session. So thank you so much as well, Ricky. It's a real pleasure to have you. And We are going to take up your questions a little later in the show, so please hang on and stay with us. So, Chand, I think let's go ahead and move with our questions for today. And as you can already see, friends, we are going to discuss today's topic is H-1B amendments, when to file. So, what exactly is an H-1B amendment, and when does an employer need to file one, Chand?
So a H-1B amendment is basically a simple formal petition, the I-129, that is filed with USCIS. And the reason why the company is required to file this I-129 is because they want to notify USCIS of any significant material changes to the terms of the H-1B worker's employment. So what happens is, on day one, initially, the company files for an H-1B petition. And when they file for the H-1B petition, they notify USCIS that the employee will do certain job duties from a certain location and will get a certain pay. So that is what happens when the initial petition is filed. But normally, what happens is down the line, things change. There are some material changes. And when we say material changes, maybe salary, maybe the work location, maybe the job title, a few of those things could change. And the requirement to file such an amendment is grounded in this principle that any employment of a foreign national must always match the conditions that are described in the original I-129. So any things like work location, job title, duties, wage level, hours of employment, or sometimes even the corporate structure. Maybe the company is getting acquired by somebody else. So all of these things could constitute a material change. So whenever there is a material change, amendment is required. So for example, the H-1B employee, he is transferred to a new job location outside the metropolitan statistical area, for example. So initially, when the employer filed the H-1B petition, they said employee is going to work from certain location. Now he's being transferred to a new location. That is a material change. And sometimes say the duties have changed significantly. Initially, he was filed as a software developer, and now the position changed to a business analyst position or a computer systems analyst position. It's a material change because the job duties are now changing to a whole different set of job duties. So when you have these kind of scenarios, an amendment is necessary. So technically, an amendment basically means you are filing the H-1B petition all over again. You're marking it as an amendment and then going back to USCIS. So you're again filing the I-129. You're again filing a new LCA. You're again paying the fees. The fees is a little less. The amendment fee is a little less to USCIS, but you still have to pay certain fees for the I-129. So you do all of that stuff. You go back to USCIS. You're good. So it is pretty vital that all employers assess every employment change very carefully. And even if it's a small change, always see what that change is. And if at all it is determined it is a material change, immediately file an amendment that protects both the employee and also the company.
Right, Chand, and it's very, very crucial because time is the major factor, right, Chand? It has to be done within a certain period of time. Is there anything specific, or are there dates different for different cases?
So according to the current regulations, there is no leeway because a lot of people sometimes come back and say, hey, we have a 30-day leeway, we have a 60-day leeway. But the rules say if at all the company, the employer is about to make any material change, they have to notify USCIS first, file the amendment, and then they can have the change. So, for example, somebody wants to move them to a new location, say from Dallas to, say, San Francisco. So the current rule is you first file the amendment reaches USCIS. So the day the file reaches USCIS, so from that day, you can have the change. So the rule is you have to file it immediately before the change happens. You file the amendment, and then you can have that particular change. So maybe the salary, maybe the job duties, maybe the location, and so on. So pretty much the rules say it is immediate.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Chant, for clarifying that as well. So there you go, friends. I hope that you have a clearer picture what an H-1B amendment is and when does an employer need to file one. So keep that in mind, and it has to be done immediately as soon as you have the information. So now, going on, let's go on to our next question, and that is, how long does it usually take, for USCIS to process an H-1B amendment in regular versus premium processing?
So the H-1B process nowadays, it is taking anywhere between, I would say, 4 to 8 months. It used to be a little bit faster a couple of months back. I think slowly it is getting a little bit slower. So I think anybody, I think nowadays could expect anywhere between 4 months to 8 months. And also, it depends on the service center your file is at. and we don't have a choice of sending it to any service center we want. It depends on where your company is located at. So there are multiple service centers. For example, there is California Service Center, there is Texas Service Center, there is Vermont Service Center, and Nebraska Service Center. That where we typically send out the H-1B packages. And the service center that you can send your H-1B package, it depends on the headquarters of your company. So based on the company location, the headquarters of your company, you have to send the H-1B package to a particular service center. And every service center typically will have varying timelines. So some service centers are fast, some service centers are slower. And on the USCIS side also, what they do is they always try to load balance. If one service center is getting loaded, occasionally they do shift the load to another service center. So they do transfer the cases, happens occasionally. So all that means is, even though two people filed the case at the same time, somebody might get it quickly, somebody might get it a little bit delayed. And there are many reasons, different service centers, sometimes maybe an additional audit and so on. So I would say anywhere between 4 to 8 months is what typically people can expect. But the good thing is you just have to file an amendment. You file the amendment, the file reaches USCIS, you're good to start the new job, the new position. So the bottom line is, unless it is really urgent, I would just say you filed in regular process. And because by filing the case, you're allowed to work at the new location, you're good to let it stay in regular process. If you do it in premium process, there is an additional fee of 2,805. And that being said, USCIS does guarantee a response within 15 business days. When they say a response, it is either an RFE or an approval. So if you get an RFE, you again get some time. You respond back to the RFE, again the calendar starts, the clock starts, the 15 business day clock. So I would say premium processing is recommended if you really have to travel and you're going for visa stamping or one of those reasons. But if not, do it in regular and just let it go. And as long as the amendment is filed, USCIS does not have any problem. And even for stamping, I mean, again, it is good to have an approval, amendment approval when you go for stamping, but it is not mandatory. You can even go for stamping with a receipt copy of your amendment. So based on that, again, premium processing is very expensive. So people, again, if cost is not a factor, I would always say go for premium. But because premium is so expensive, unless it is required, I would not suggest it.
Right, and already there's a fee hike in the H-1B filing itself, right, Chand? So I wonder, has the premium processing also gone down? Do people still do it as they used to last year? Any idea?
Uh, Sure. Again, so I do see some people. I think what happens is they want peace of mind, especially when you do a transfer or especially when you're doing your extension and your I-94 is about to expire. And you want to get an answer before your I-94 expires, because you should always be in a spot where your I-94 is always valid. So when you're doing an extension, so technically, even if your I-94 expires, you can still work in the country for 240 days. But again, if something happens to the extension petition, you have that stress. So sometimes, just to avoid any stress, have peace of mind, I do see people going for premium processing. And nowadays, because there is so much of uh, news that people hear on social media, people are concerned that the rules are changing or all these kind of news. So what I see people do is, most of the time it is for peace of mind. I mean, 2,805, that's a very expensive cost for premium process. So but again, I do see people do premium processing just for that peace of mind. But I always suggest, I mean, if your I-94 is about to expire, that is one reason why you should always get your process done in premium, because you don't want to be ever in a spot where your I-94 is expired. So the cases where I-94 is about to expire, I would say yes, go for premium. But if not, maybe it's not really worth it. The cost is not worth it.
Okay, okay, there you go, friends. I hope that if you are in a dilemma, you know how to figure things out now for yourself. And also, Fawad has joined us. And Ricky, I can see you have a lot of questions. Please stay with us. We are going to take them up. But for now, also, I want to say, folks out there, that you can join in, conversation with us. Why don't you just dial this number, especially Ricky out there? The number is 425-436-6335, and the access code is 988-888. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. So, friends, check us out not just here on YouTube, but also on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, on Instagram as well. Stay connected with us. And now let's go on to our next question, Chand. And if you can tell us, what are some common reasons that USCIS might delay or issue an RFE, request for evidence, in an amendment case?
Sure. So one thing I think we should understand is when you're filing an amendment, we are actually filing a new I-129. We are filing a new LCA, and we are again starting basically from scratch. So technically, it is called an amendment. You pay less fees because it's an amendment. But in terms of burden of proof, in terms of getting an approval, you do have to show that you have eligibility right from scratch. So you do again have to submit your pay statements. You do have to submit your educational documents. You do have to submit your passport. You do have to submit your I-94s. So in terms of the burden of proof, you do have to prove everything. You do have to prove specialty occupation. You do have to prove maintenance of status. You do have to prove beneficiary qualifications. And what that means is, so the normal reasons you would see USCIS issue an RFE for an H-1B, maybe a transfer or maybe for the initial filing. The same kind of reasons you would see even in an amendment filing. And in the amendment filing, again, they're looking at your education qualifications. So if you have, like, for example, a non-computer science degree, maybe a mechanical engineering degree, and you're filing for a software developer position, there is always a chance that USCIS could come back and say, you have a mechanical engineering degree, how do you qualify for a software or an IT position? So that possibility is always there. And what that means is you again have to prove, you upfront might have to put some evaluations, might have to put some expert opinions to prove that you qualify. Even though in the past you got an approval, but because this is an amendment, they will again look at everything from scratch. So that is one thing. And another major thing that comes up quite a lot in an amendment case is maintenance of status. So what that means is when you file for an amendment, they are making sure that in the past, whatever approval you got, you're actually following the terms of it. What that means is they're looking at your pay stubs. Nowadays, they're looking at your pay stubs, they're looking at your salary, and say you're supposed to be paid certain salary in your past LCA, past H-1B approval. If the employer is not paying you as per those terms, I've seen a number of RFEs where they said it looks like the employer is not maintaining the terms of the previous approval, probably not paying as per the terms of the previous LCA, and then USCIS will say shows all the pay statements that you got since your last approval because they want to make sure that the LCA is being met. So a very, very common thing that we are seeing nowadays is USCIS going back and saying provide us all the pay statements because we want to verify that your employer has met the LCA. That is one common thing that we're seeing. Another thing that we are seeing is, uh, again, they're going to look at when this job change occurred. So, for example, you have a material change, and you're providing a purchase order, or you're providing documents that prove that you have started this position maybe 6 months back, but you're filing an amendment very, very late. USCIS will be able to know about it because they will look at your address, and sometimes they have access to public records. They can search and see where your address is. So if they find that you have changed address, you have moved to another place, and what that means is for the last few months, you've already started this new position. So it's a late amendment filing. So nowadays, we're also seeing RFS where USCIS talks about this is probably a late amendment filing. You're supposed to file the amendment on time. And because this is a late amendment filing, shows what exactly happened. When did this material change happen? So there is a good possibility that if USCIS sees on the face of the petition that things have changed and you have not notified USCIS on time, questioning you about maintenance of status is a big possibility. So that's another reason why everybody should file amendments timely. And by filing amendments timely, you will protect your own status. And companies also don't get dinged for filing a late amendment. So the
Right.
bottom line is provide well documented and a complete petition. So whatever, however you would do an initial petition, you would have the same burden. So you pretty much have to take the same precautions, same care in filing the amendment.
Right, right, Chand. Well, thank you so much, for the detailed explanation on this, and I hope that, friends out there are totally enjoying this session. And guess what? We have a caller for today. I thought it was Ricky, but it's actually Vicky. So, hi, Vicky. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us where you have joined us from.
Yeah. Hi, I'm actually Vicky from Virginia. So my question for today for the attorney is I recently filed for an non-cap excel H-1B with my employer, and the status would begin from June 10th. But I'm expecting there will be a delay in onboarding and all. But what if I haven't started working from June 10th and or haven't received any pay, and I'll be still in the US and approaching the 60-day mark? Will I be considered out of status if my employment doesn't start in 60 days with the start date of my H-1B?
So normally, what I would suggest is you should report to work, and if you report to work, the employer cannot put you on the bench, because when you say that you're available to work, and if the employer is putting you on bench, that is not legal. So report back to work, and because you got an approval, so I think from your perspective, I think you are in status. Make sure you report to work and try to get onboarded as quickly as possible. And because normally what happens is when you do an extension filing, or when you have a site visit, they're going to look and see what happened, and looks like you're still within the 60-day grace period, so you're good, and looks like your H-1B filing has already been done within the 60-day grace period, you're good. And what I would suggest is don't try to cross the 60 days, and make sure you at least report to work within the 60-day grace period.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any chance, if there is a possibility, or if some work situation, if my employment starts on 65th day or 50th day, will I be in trouble, or will I be considered out of status?
You'll not be considered out of status, but again, you don't want to have USCIS say that you're not maintaining your status. You're not out of status. You're probably not maintaining status if you don't work like you're supposed to. That being said, if you report to work and the employer is saying that, no, we don't have a project, we need to kind of put you on hold for some time, that is classic case of benching. So employer cannot bench you, but you do have the burden of at least reporting to work. So if you say that, hey, I'm available to work, and if the employer says don't start, it could be on the employer, because the employers cannot bench you. And there is a very important rule that says that employer should not be benching you if you're available to work. But again, it looks like you got an approval, so your status is good. And I would say just report to work and start as quickly as the employer will let you start working.
Oh, okay, sir. But thing is, I haven't, as of now, I just have a conditional offer. But since my H-1B starts on June 10th, I haven't received any official offer to start. So it would be on the employer end, right? Employer should do it immediately, or I should start working from June 10th.
Again, I mean,
August 10th.
I mean, if you got an approval from June 10th, you should start working from June 10th, especially if you're in a spot where you're laid off. But if you have already got the approval, to me, it looks like you already signed an offer, and that offer letter was part of your H-1B petition. So the employer already submitted the H-1B petition. So it looks like, according to the employer, they've already told USCIS that it is going to be from June 10th, which is why you got that approval. So just try to check with the employer, and if you got an approval, try to get onboarded as quickly as possible.
Okay,
okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vicky, and all the best. I hope you enjoy working, and all the best for this whole new endeavor ahead of you.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. So that was Vicky, friends, and you too can join us just like Vicky did. And the number is there on the screen, 425-436-6335, and the access code is 988888. Well, that was nice, Chand, the detailed explanation. And that's what, if you call in to ask your questions, it's easier, clearer. And because otherwise we keep guessing, is this what you really want to know, right? So, nevertheless, I think we should definitely take up Ricky's question also. So, let's take up Ricky's asking, does a minor base salary increase as a part of an annual performance review also warrant an amendment or LCA revision?
So
Should I read the
if
whole thing? I think he's telling about him also. Should I just quickly read? My NIW I-140 petition was filed by employer. NIW I-140 petition processing time for the Nebraska Center is 16.5 months as per USCIS website. Can you give some idea on the typical processing times and that you are seeing for I-140 petition? So let's go with the first one.
Sure. So in terms of minor base salary, this is a question that a lot of people have, because everybody gets like a salary increase at the end of the year. Many people do get salary increases. So just a basic salary increase by itself does not require an amendment, because for it to be a material change, you need to have changes in your job duties, changes in your role, changes in responsibilities, or change in work location. So just a minor base salary because the company is trying to keep up with the industry standards. They're paying you to keep up with the industry standards, and you're in the same job position. That does not require an amendment, and even the company is not doing anything wrong because they're trying to retain talent, and they're trying to keep up with the actual wage, the industry wage. So they're trying not to underpay you because you're an immigrant, non-immigrant, but they're trying to kind of keep up with the industry standards. So that I would not say is a material change, as long as your duties, your responsibilities are not changing. Say you get a promotion, they add up more responsibilities to you because now that you have a promotion, and then increase your salary. That is a time where you would have to look at whether it is a material change and whether you require an amendment or not. But assuming your role is same, just to keep up with the industry standards, retain talent, they're doing a minor salary increase, you don't require an amendment. The first part. And for the second question regarding NIW, I-140s, I mean, what we are seeing lately is the timelines are increasing. The timelines have become pretty bad, both for the PERMs and I-140s. But the good thing is you do have premium processing. So what I would suggest is at this point of time, I mean, again, 16.5 months, to me, it looks like you're just about there, because that is pretty much what I'm seeing to get some kind of result, either an RFE or an approval from USCIS. And Nebraska seems to be pretty slow in the I-140s. But again, if you are in a hurry and you want to like finish the process off, premium is one way. And to me, if you can wait, you can wait. But if it is an I-140, I would always say that try to get it done in premium, get it done with, because it's one thing out of the way. So I-140, definitely explore the premium option.
We should take up this other question also from Ricky, and that is H-1B amendments for base pay changes has to be necessarily filed by the employer, or can the employee also file it?
So any kind of an amendment, H-1B amendment, has to be filed by the employer, because technically when we say amendment, it is basically an I-129 petition. So the company is filing an I-129 petition along with an LCA, and both of these documents are something that the employer has to sign, and the employer does not even have to sign these documents. So it's always, H-1B amendment is always an employer filing. So it is not the employee filing, it is the employer filing. And another important thing for all is always keep your LCA with you. The employer has to give you a copy of the LCA, so always have the LCA with you, so you can look at your LCA and immediately figure it out whether it's a material change or not. And if it's a material change, you should always like insist on an amendment filing, and the employer, they should do it themselves. But again, just to safeguard your immigration status, always keep a copy of the LCA with you. Look at what's inside the LCA. Make sure you're working at that location, in that occupation, and getting paid as per the LCA. Okay, so that's very important. Everybody should have a copy of the LCA. No employer can say that they don't want to disclose it. By law, it is mandatory that employer provide you a copy of the LCA. Okay, so it's very important that everybody does have the copy of the LCA.
Okay. There you go, Ricky. I hope we have covered all your questions. And if you have any more questions, keep commenting or just call in. Dial the number which is there on the screen. And now let's go to Fawad's question. Fawad is asking, in a situation where a US employer has filed a PERM labor certification application on behalf of a foreign national employee, but the employee's prior date is not yet current, what are the risks and consequences of the employee's decision to leave the US for a period of 6 to 12 months?
Sure. So the PERM application right now, it is taking, I mean, it's taking a very, very long time. And if you see the timelines, it is anywhere between 14 to 15 months. So once you file the PERM, so when you file the PERM, that is the time you get the priority date. And from that time, it is taking almost 14 to 15 months. So it's a very long time. And if you look at the dates, even for EB2, EB3, even for the rest of the world, the dates are not current. So what that means is, so what if you have travel plans? There is nothing that says that you cannot travel out of the country when PERM is in process. So when PERM is in process, or even when I-140 is in process, you are always good to travel. So you can travel out of the country, and traveling for 6 months to 12 months when the PERM is pending, it is not a problem, as long as the employer is not revoking your PERM or not revoking your I-140. So if your employer, they're still having that position open for you, the employer still is in the process of going ahead with the I-140 filing, they still want to employ you once you get your permanent residence, you should not have a problem. So the only thing is, you probably should see if your employer still has the position open for you, and if they still have a requirement. If that is the case, traveling should not cause any problem while your perm is in process.
All right, so there you go. Chand, thank you so much for taking that up for Fawad. And Fawad, I hope you got your answer to your question. And friends, I wanted to say, if you are resonating with this whole conversation, this discussion we're having today with attorney Chand Parvathaneni from SPB Law Firm, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. And you can also check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, on Instagram. And also, one good thing is that if you need a one-on-one consultation with attorney Chand Parvathaneni, you can also check him out and go find him in the link which is displayed on the screen. And thank you once again for joining us. So we will continue with the questions from our audience. There are quite a few. So let's take up this one first from Ling Aya. My H-1B visa is set to expire on August 30th, 2025. I had to travel to India due to health issues and subsequently lost my job. I am in India. Can I apply H-1B extension in the future once I get a new job?
Sure. So for anybody that has an H-1B, whether in US or they had an H-1B in US for some time and then they left and went back to India. So like Lingaya's case, for example, in this case. So you lost your job, which means now you need to find a new job. So at some point of time, you'll definitely find a job. You'll find an US employer. So whenever you find an US employer, they will file a new petition for you. Whether it is before August 30th, 2025, when your current H-1B is set to expire, or even afterwards. So the rule is, if you have not used 6 years of your H-1B, you are cap exempt. So what that means is, whenever you find a US employer, that US employer can file a H-1B petition for you, whether it is before your current H-1B is about to expire or even afterwards. So even after your H-1B expires, say you find a new employer, they can still file for a H-1B for you because you are cap exempt. And when they file for the H-1B for you, they get an approval. You simply go back and get visa stamping. So the only thing is, if your H-1B visa, because your H-1B visa is set to expire on August 30th, if you find an employer right now, you get an approval, you can use the same visa, same existing visa, and you can come back. After August 30th, 2025, what happens is you do have to go for visa stamping. So in terms of a company filing for a H-1B for you, they can file it at any point of time. But if you get an approval before your current visa expires in August, you can use the same visa, come back. But if not, you will have that additional step of again going back for visa stamping.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lingaya, for participating, and do not forget to subscribe if you haven't as yet. And thank you, Chand, for the detailed explanation. Now let's take up Hema's question. She's saying, I'm currently on STEM OPT expiring this December and having consular H-1B approved with my employer now. Is there any chance to make a change of status within USA before my STEM expires?
Definitely. So I think we have dealt with a lot of cases where people got an approval in council process. So once you have an approval in council process, you have been counted against the H-1B cap. So you went through the lottery. And what that means is, in the future, if you want your existing employer to file for a change of status H-1B, yes, the company can do it. So you don't have to leave US. The company can file a change of status petition while you're in US. Or say you find a new employer, say, for example, a new company gave you an offer, a job offer. They can use this approval to show that you're cap exempt because you have been counted in cap, you're cap exempt, and they can file for a change of status petition for you. The only rule is, on the day the change of status petition is filed for you, you have to prove that you are maintaining valid status. And what that means is, you have to file it before your STEM OPT expires, and also you have to prove that you're actually working on STEM OPT as per the terms of STEM OPT. So if you are maintaining status, in this case F1 under STEM OPT, you can have a new employer or the same employer file for a H-1B with change of status because you're cap exempt. The only time you might have you will have a problem is if USCIS revokes the H-1B for some fraud, like say the initial council processing petition, has some fraud or some misrepresentation. If USCIS revokes the base petition, then you are not cap exempt. But if not, you're good to file for a change of status, H-1B.
All right. So thank you so much, Chand, for taking that up for Hema. And Hema, I hope that you're enjoying the session and you got your answer. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon. And, so that whenever we have discussions like these, you're notified and you can participate. And Chand, we at this moment have our second caller of the day. And this is Seshu, he says, from California. So, hi, Seshu. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for connecting me. Hi, Tony. I have a
Hey.
question. I'm currently on H-1B first year and working on a contract position through a consultancy. And I recently had a client change. My new and old clients are located within the same county. Though my job responsibilities are similar, my job title was CW software engineer with my old client, but now it is senior software engineer. SOC code is also same. So do I need to file my H1 amendment in this case?
Sure. This is a good question, and a lot of people have this question. What happens when you have a client change? Uh, just because you have a client change, you change to a different project, you might not require an amendment. So the way you see it is, you look at the job duties. You see if the ONET code is same. Is it in the same occupation or not? You also have to see if it is in the same wage level. So is the level the same? So in the past, if it was junior wage level 1, now it's a senior level position, then yes, it is a material change. But if the wage level is the same in the old position and in the new position, then it is not a material change. So the bottom line is, even if it is a new project, new client, if it is in the same metro area, if it is in the same wage level, if it is in the same ONET code occupation, then you don't have to really file an amendment because there is no material change. Technically, the client has changed, the project has changed, but the job duties are still in the same occupation, same wage level, same metro area. So in your case, that is the analysis that your employer would have to do, making sure that the job duties, wage levels, occupation are still the same. And based on what you mentioned, looks like they are the same. If that is the case, amendment is not required.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for answering that.
Okay.
And another follow-up question is, I'm planning to go for H1 stamping next year. So without filing this amendment, can I, while during the interview, can I mention my current client's name?
Yes. So whenever you have like a site visit or when you go for stamping, always make sure you give your current client, current work location. And it is very easy. There is, I mean, normally what I do is I provide our clients with, there is a note on the USCIS website where they clearly say if there is no material change or you're relocating within the same metro area, same duties, you don't need an amendment filing. So keep a copy of it, and the USCIS officers know about it, the consulate officers know about it. The thing is, you just have to kind of show that there is no material change. So uh, make sure you're always giving the new client location, and they'll be able to determine if it is a material change or not by looking at the distance, and then you should not have a problem. Only thing to keep in mind is, you don't need a new amendment filing, you don't need a new LCA filing, but you do have to do something called LCA posting. So talk to your employer about the LCA posting. So if you change your client, there is this LCA posting requirement that has to be met at the new worksite. So if you meet that, amendment filing is not required. Okay, but there is this LCA posting that is very important. So do talk to your employer about it.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks a lot. That helps.
Thank you so much, Seishu. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon, all right? And thank you once again. All the best. So that was Seishu, friends, and he joined in from California. I hope you too have your questions. I can see Rajendra, Selomid. Feel free to join us on call as well. And the number is 425-436-6335, and the access code is 988-888. So thank you, Chand, for that detailed explanation and for actively participating and taking all these questions from us so patiently. So now I think we should take up more, but let's take this for Selomit. What are the risks of failing to file an H-1B amendment in a timely manner, such as when an employer changes the terms of an H-1B employee's employment?
So the biggest risk is, say today you have a site visit, because site visits are possible. I mean, again, whatever we had last year is what we're seeing now. Nothing like more or less. So site visits occasionally do happen for all kinds of companies, big companies, small companies. So if there is a site visit all of a sudden and the USCIS officer finds that there is a violation, then you will not have a chance to correct it. So that is the biggest risk that I see. But say that you so you were not able to file it on a timely manner, but before they found out, you filed the case. Then USCIS has a discretion. Sometimes they approve, sometimes they cause an issue. So the thing is, at least if you know that your amendment has not been filed and you have not had a site visit, what I would do is, even if it is not timely, go ahead and file it. Okay, because you filed it before USCIS caught you, more than likely, because USCIS has their own discretion, most of the time I do see them being a little bit lenient. But if they catch you before the amendment is filed and they find out that you are in violation, then more than likely they will issue a notice of intent to revoke and revoke your H-1B. That is one part. And again, if it is late filing, you do file it. Most of the time, USCIS is a little bit lenient, but again, not always. They don't have to approve. Sometimes we do see them come back and cause issues and say, they will still, most of the time what happens is they will still approve the amendment, but they will say, because you have failed it untimely, go back to the home country, get stamping and come back. So the way they do it is they approve the H-1B without an I-94. So more than likely what will happen is you'll get an approval for H-1B, but you'll 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 but you'll
I
but
don't know
you'll
what,
but
but
you'll
it's
but
weird.
you'll but you'll but
There is
you'll but
an
you'll
issue.
but you'll but you'll
I'm so
but
sorry, I
you'll
can't
but
hear.
you'll
This
but
it's
you'll but
looping.
you'll but you'll but you'll but you'll but you'll but you'll but you'll
Um,
but you'll but you'll but you'll but you'll but you'll but you'll but
okay,
you'll but you'll but you'll but
it's so weird.
you'll but
Okay, I think there is the audio is looping from your end. Chand, if you could just check that. I'm not very sure what is the matter, but there are just two words. It's looping. But yes, I think we got the answer for Selomit, and folks out there do check it out. And let's see. I think it's better now. Chand, if you can speak a little.
how's it now?
Yeah,
Is it
it's
better?
good.
Is
It's
better?
thank
Okay,
goodness.
sorry about that. Okay, so I'll repeat the answer again. So
Yeah, sure.
in case you fail to file an amendment timely, what happens is, if USCIS catches you before you file an amendment, and the way they do it is through a site visit. Say a site visit happens and they find out that you have not filed an amendment, you'll definitely have an issue. But again, if you
Mhm.
know that it is untimely, but you realize the mistake, if you go ahead and file it before they catch you, most of the time I see them being a little bit lenient. So what I would do is, if you know that it is not timely, but you realize the mistake, go ahead and file it. Most of the time you might be okay. A few times what they come back and do is they say that, yes, we will approve the H-1B, but you might have to go for stamping. So the way they do it is they approve the H-1B, they don't issue the I-94. So they don't issue the I-94, but they approve the H-1B because you have not filed it timely. So you simply go out for stamping, you go to the consulate, and if it's, normally if it is like a mistake, one-time mistake, what I've seen so far is they're being a little bit lenient, but you're forced to go out for stamping and then re-enter the United States. So the bottom line is, if you know it
Mhm.
is not timely, but you realize the mistake, go ahead and file it. I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. It's more like realizing your mistake and apologizing and correcting, making up for it rather
Yeah,
in a timely manner than knowing it and not doing anything about it. So Salomit,
that's
all the
correct.
best. I think you should get it done. Yeah, thank you, Chand, so much. Well, I do have more questions from our Facebook as well, but we will take up Rajendra's question meanwhile. So, Rajendra is asking, I'm working in New York City. My employer transferred me to a new work site in San Francisco, California. My employer did not obtain a new labor condition application for the San Francisco location before transferring. What steps should the employer take to correct this situation? Anything that should be done from my end?
Sure. And definitely, I think that's a violation of H-1B regulations, but I think it is something you can correct it quickly. So I think what your employer has to do is immediately file an amendment as quickly as possible. And what you should do is you should simply ask the employer to get a new LCA and then file an amendment. You can probably do it in about 7 days to 10 days max. The good thing is you realize that yes, there is probably a violation because New Jersey is completely a different metro area. San Francisco is a completely a different metro area. The salaries in New Jersey are different. The salaries in San Francisco are different. And what that means is the employer has to pay the San Francisco salary. The way they would do it is you file a new LCA, you file a new amendment, and then pay as per the terms of the new amendment. So so what you should do on your side is at least send an email to the employer, document it, and try to fix the problem. Okay, because in case the employer is procrastinating or just forgot about it, it's a good time to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And just to avoid any issues, file an amendment. Amendment is not that very complex. I mean, if you are working in San Francisco, I'm pretty sure that you have bona fide work, which is the most critical part of USCIS H-1B petition. And since you are working in San Francisco, simply show what that work assignment is and go ahead and file an amendment and try to do it as quickly as possible. So that way you have more peace of mind.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chand, for taking this up for Rajendra. And Rajendra, thank you. It was really nice having you with your question. I hope you got your answer. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, okay? Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. This goes out to all viewers out there, and I hope that you're resonating with this session and are enjoying this whole conversation and discussion we're having on today's topic, H-1B amendment and when to file it. So yes, like I was saying, Chand, we do have some Facebook groups question from our groups. So we'll take up this first one, which is I think I wrote. Anyway, let me zoom in a little bit. So my H-1B amendment is in process for job title change. I'm moving to new address. Can I request my employer to change address within same process? Job location is remote and new address is same city, another country, but same LCA wage levels.
So definitely in this case, amendment. It's a good thing that amendment is already in process. So I think get the amendment filed, and when you file the amendment in the I-129, what happens is there is a specific place where you have to put the current address of the beneficiary of the H-1B employee. So it's a good idea to make sure you always give the accurate address in the I-129. Make sure your address, the right address, is being put on the I-129, and let the employer file the amendment as quickly as possible. Not only that, on your side, on the employee side, always file AR11 independently. So whenever you have an address change, it is very important that you, using your My USCIS account, you file the address change. So it's a very easy process. It will take you like 5 minutes. So whenever there is an address change, you move to a new address within 10 days. Let USCIS know about it by filing the form AR11, and you can do it in My USCIS website. And then the employer also parallelly, when they're filing the I-129 petition, the amendment, they will make sure that they put your most current address on the I-129.
Okay. But thank you so much, Chant, for taking that up. And let's go on to our next one. I wish we knew the participants, they are mostly anonymous. So like this one as well. But yes, saying, hi all, is there a need for a receipt notice of the pending H-1B amendment to travel internationally? The company H-1B attorney says just the receipt number is required and not the notice. And my attorney says carry the notice. Departure is booked for right after filing and cannot change travel plan. Which advice to follow? Thanks in advance.
I would always advise you to carry the copy of your approval and also copy of your amendment receipt, because if somebody asks, you want to prove that you're working as per the terms of a particular H-1B petition, and it's always good to make sure you have the receipt, because you want to make sure there are no mistakes in that receipt number, and you want to really make sure the employer filed the H-1B petition for you. So always, definitely, I think if you are traveling, you need to have the copy of your H-1B approval. You need to carry copies of your LCA and copies of your receipts in your case, because the amendment is in process. So not only the amendment receipt, but also I would say that you should carry a copy of your LCA, because you do want to know that you're working as per the terms of your H-1B, and LCA is the best document that shows what the terms of your H-1B are.
All right, Chan. Thank you so much for taking that up as well. And now let's go on to our next one. I was sharing the wrong window, so that was the problem. Now, this next question, let's take this up from another anonymous member. Hello, guys. My employer filed for an H-1B amendment and extension in February. In March, there was a site visit related to my previous petition. Is it possible to have another site visit for my current client location? Has anyone experienced multiple site visits from USCIS?
So I think when the old site visit happened, if everything checked out, everything was good with the company, everything was good with your petition, I think you're at low risk for getting another site visit. That being said, USCIS has their own algorithm. They have their own way of cases getting selected for a site visit, because also a lot depends on what the backend systems are doing. If they're flagging the employer, or if they're flagging something on what you've done in the past, so then probably you're at a higher risk. But if not, if the old site visit happened, everything was good, and there is no red flags or anything, typically it is rare that you'll have another site visit very soon. That being said, they do a lot of data analysis, and depends on what their systems are flagging. But if not, because again they have limited resources, they want to catch fraud. They want to kind of go after people who has a higher probability of doing mistakes. So a lot depends on your employer, a lot depends on your background. These things are what will determine another visit for you. That being said, if everything worked out, everything checked out in your previous petition, I don't think you are at high risk for a immediate site visit.
Okay, okay. So thank you so much, Chand. These are some very important points to keep in mind, and I hope folks out there are really taking notes and are enjoying the session which we are having today, because we have so much important points you really do not want to miss out on. So yes, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and also like, share with your folks and family and friends out there who would benefit most with this content. And moving on, let's go on to this next one. Hi everyone, I received an RFE for my H-1B amendment plus extension under the beneficiary qualification category. I am from BE computer science background with close to 20 years of IT experience. I already have an EVL from my current employer covering the last 5 years, one from a prior employer 8.4 years which I had used for my I-140, and I am currently working on getting a letter from another past employer 2 years. However, I may need to prepare self affidavit EVLs with notarization for three earlier employers from the initial stage of my career, where letters might not be accessible. Has anyone here submitted notarized self affidavits as part of their RFE response and had success? I'd really appreciate your insights.
Sure. So in this case, he's clearly having a B in computer science. So what that means is, on the face of his education, he should be qualified. And again, like we discussed before, even when you file an amendment, RFEs are common. So because they're checking everything. So like in this case, this person has a lot of approvals, including an I-140 approval, and he still got an RFE for beneficiary qualifications during an amendment. So this is what typically always is a possibility. But the good thing is, in this case, since he has a B in computer science, I would not even worry about experience. He can simply do an educational evaluation. So an equivalency of his education. And since it is B in computer science, it will be equivalent to a US bachelor's in computer science. So even without experience letters, he should be able to argue this RFE and move ahead. That being said, if somebody has a non-computer science degree, they definitely require experience letters, and self affidavits are not acceptable by USCIS. Any self affidavits are considered their own documents by USCIS, and USCIS will not accept resumes or self affidavits for the purpose of evaluations. So in case somebody really requires a work experience evaluation, do not use self affidavits. But that being said, in this case, since education is enough, I would just simply go with an education evaluation. I would not even worry about an experience evaluation in this case, and beneficiary should be able to get through just by his education.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Chand, for taking that up as well, and for the detailed explanation. Now let's take this up. This is about Dropbox. My H-1B amendment is in process, and I plan to travel to India in a month. I have already scheduled my Dropbox appointment using my current I-797, which is valid until 2027. Would I need to update my US visa scheduling application to reflect the new I-797 details? Or is it okay for me to proceed with my Dropbox appointment using my old but still valid I-797? Is it mandatory to use the updated I-797 for stamping? And if I decide to cancel my appointment and schedule a new one, would I need to repay the visa fees? Thank you.
So since in this case it is just an amendment, in an amendment typically what happens is you'll have the same employer name, and the end date will not really change. So technically it should be the same end date and same um, it should reflect the same employer name. So in general, like nothing should change in terms of the end date on the visa. That being said, make sure what you gave on the DS 160. So in the DS 160 you should give wherever you're currently working. So in the DS 160, if you have given the right information, which means you should have given your amendment work location because you have already filed an amendment. So if the DS 160 correctly reflects the data, the same worksite information and everything is accurate, you should be pretty good. I mean, you should not have to do anything. But if there is any material change, like the work location was incorrect, then I would definitely say that, like, make sure that is reflected in your DS 160. But in this case, if your DS 160 is accurate in terms of the work location, the job title, and all those things, because your new approval also will have the same end date, you should probably be okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chand, for taking that up as well. And I think with that, we have covered almost all of our questions we needed to. But I did have some more questions, so I hope you have just a couple more minutes. I wanted to take from you,
Mm.
Chand, and if you could tell us a little bit about what risks do employers and employees face if they fail to file a required amendment, for a change in worksite or job duties.
So, in terms of the main risk is again, especially from an employer perspective, you can get penalized by DOL. For example, like in the question we previously had, somebody was working in New York, but the employer has put them in San Francisco. San Francisco, the Bay Area, has a very high salary. So what that means is the employer by law is supposed to pay a lot more than what they're paying in New Jersey. So by not filing an amendment, they're actually paying a lot less than what is required by law to be paid to the employee. So now the employer is at risk of getting a DOL audit, a USCIS audit, maybe penalized for all the back pay, and they have to pay the salary back to USCIS if at all they cause a big issue. So now they're exposing them to all these penalties and issues. And again, USCIS or DOL typically for one violation, I've not seen them take drastic actions. If they see a pattern of abuse, that is when they try to kind of come back and do something big. But again, it's a good practice because as an employer, you are like actually you have a lot more to lose because you have a company that you have been running and then a lot more to lose. So it's in the interest of the employer not to expose themselves to any kind of penalties. So employer should always be cautious looking at material changes. Now coming back to the employee side, employee also has a lot to lose because if USS comes, does a site visit, and they find that the terms of the petition are not being adhered to, there is a compliance violation. They're going to send a notice of intent to revoke the H-1B of the employee, the beneficiary. So now the employee is going to lose their status. And sometimes if it is a base petition, they run the risk of uh, the base petition getting revoked for misrepresentation. So the bottom line is the employee could lose their H-1B if USCIS determines that there was a violation. Because I've seen this before. When USCIS does a site visit, they find that amendments were not filed timely. I've seen notice of intent to revoke being sent, petitions getting revoked. Same thing with the employer. Employers are also running a risk. So to avoid all this, it's a good idea to kind of just be aware of this amendment rule. And this rule is not very recent. It's been there for almost like 10 years now, since 2015, since the whole Simeo Solutions lawsuit. So it's a good idea to kind of always make sure in doing so, employees are safe, employers are also safe. So that way,
Yeah.
they're not worried about any USAS audit or any DOL audit, and just they're running their business as required.
Absolutely, yes. And as you already mentioned, about the senior solutions case. So if you could just highlight a bit, in short, about how USCIS views location changes for H-1B workers after, the senior solution case.
Sure. So, because a lot of times what happens is people work in the same role. They're exactly working in the same role, but they get reassigned to a different location. So, after Simeo Solutions case, what actually happened is USCIS came up with two things. They said, okay, your employer can put you, relocate you, but if it is within the same metro area. Okay, so they have a definition of what the same metro area is. It is metropolitan statistical area. So if you go to census.gov, you can see the metropolitan statistical areas, the MSAs. They're called as MSAs. So if you are within the same metro area, metropolitan statistical area, then pretty much your employer can relocate you, but your employer does not even have to file an amendment, and that is what Simeo Solution says. They also said another thing: you should be within the commutable distance. So if you're working in Dallas and your employer moves you to, like, say, 30 miles away, they're also talking about the commutable distance. So if you are within the same commutable distance, so technically 30 miles is definitely within the commutable range, and if you are within the same commutable distance of your existing petition, even if your location changes, your employer does not have to file an amendment. So the bottom line is, if you are within the commutable distance of your existing work location, or you are in the same metropolitan statistical area, so your current work location versus your newly assigned work location, if they are in the same MSA, you pretty much don't have to file an amendment. That is what the Simeo solution says. And you can use that because in the future, if you have a site visit, your employer put you on a new project, but it's a new client, but say within 10-mile radius, then you can show this Simeo solutions case, USCIS memo, and simply argue that you don't have to file an amendment. So at least what this Simeo solutions case did is it kind of gave us clarity on when you are required to file an amendment, and at least it is now a very clear regulation. So you just pretty much have to make sure that you're within the same MSA or within the commutable distance.
Right. Right, Chan. Thank you so much, for clearly explaining to us about the Simeo solutions, what changes it brought up, and also, about the H-1B amendments, when to file it, and what situations need filings and do not need filings. It was a great session. I mean, I wish we could continue because there are more questions from Ricky as well. I'm so sorry, Ricky. Maybe we will save your questions for our upcoming session again. I hope you will be able to join us. But we did answer some of your questions, and I hope that you were satisfied with them. So, also, thank you so much, Chand, for taking up each of our questions and answering them in a detailed manner and so patiently. So, it was lovely having you today as well.
Thank you so much.
So, happy day ahead and a happy June ahead. We will see you soon in another session, and we will keep in touch, Chand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, friends, do not forget to also contact attorney Chand Parvathaneni, and to find him, you can check out the link which is displayed on the screen. I hope that you enjoyed this session, and what I need you to do is please subscribe to our channel. Also, share this with your friends and family who could benefit most. And our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. Also, check us out not just here on YouTube, but also on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram as well. Keep in touch with us, stay connected because we bring you the latest updates on US immigration. Also, if you have any questions or you want to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. My phone number is 408-335-6444, and my email address is nipa@staffingly.com. So, once again, thank you, each one of you, for joining us. Have a great day ahead, but stay tuned here on Immigration Talk Show because there's a lot more coming and you don't want to miss out on anything. All right, bye for now.
Thank you.